pants. He came up to me and said, "That was brilliant. That was brilliant. That was really brilliant, old chap. Now, tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Do you really believe all that? Do you really believe that God is a person? Do you really believe that He has a body the color of sham? Sham is a rain cloud, but not just any rain cloud. In India, when it is the hot season, it gets very, very hot, too much hot. And at that time, the sun is very, very bright, too much bright. And the result is that the cloud, the gray cloud, is covering the blue sky, and the sun shines so bright, it shines just through the cloud. In Holland, that wouldn't happen. But in India, that happens. Yes, it shines through the cloud, and therefore the cloud gets a bluish color and blackish at the same time. And it is effulgent also. That's Sham. That is the color of Krishna. Anyway, do you really believe that God is like that? Why not? You think that He cannot have a form? Huh? You think that the divine must be all-pervading love, all-pervading intelligence, and it is some sort of anthropomorphism, a human projection upon the absolute truth. We're projecting a form upon that which is divinity. Is that what it is? No, because look, I have an individual nature. You can see that, right? You know, even someone may look like me, but he is not like me. Yeah, some people look like me, but they not quite. Right? Not quite. Not quite the same. We are all individuals. Unique fellow, totally unique. Everyone unique. Everyone unique. So, like that, we all have personalities. But if everything is the creation of God, then the Creator doesn't have personality. All His creations have, but He doesn't. Does that make sense? Why would there be something in the creation that's not within Him? Rather, whatever is expanding from Him should also be in Him. So there should also be personality within Him. Of course, also impersonal energy. Yes, I also have impersonal energy. I have a car, it's parked around the corner, you know, we drove it here. That's impersonal energy, right? It's sort of there. It's the keys in my pocket, it's sort of locked, it's there. But it's not, and it's energy, we're moving it around. But without the driver, it doesn't work. So there's personality and energy, so many things. My energy is in so many things, so many places, so many relationships, with so many people, with so many things. My energy is all there, but it all emanates from the person. So this is Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality. And everything, yes, but why would He have only one personality? He has unlimited ones, yes. And in all these unlimited forms, He does different things. In His original form, He's enjoying, having a good time. That's natural. If we could, we would also have a good time all the time. Why not? And then, right, and then He has other forms, expansions, and they do the work. They are the ones. From these expansions, the form of Mahavishnu manifests. And from Mahavishnu, from the a huge body, and He's lying on the causal ocean, and from His body, all these universes manifest. Not one, many universes, like little bubbles coming out of His pores. And these bubbles are floating on the water of the causal ocean. Like that. Yes. And so there are the universes, and then within these universes there are planetary systems, and then somewhere on one of these planets there is a city called Amsterdam, and that is a tiny speck on the map, like that. And there, even tinier, is the Hare Krishna temple. Yes. So like this, we get a perspective. The bigger picture, the bigger picture. God is not just the supreme controller. God is not just giving blessings. Oh, please give me blessings. Asirvad chahiye. Give me blessings. Yes. But such blessings, for what? What blessings? He himself is the greatest blessing. See, when you work for someone, you will say, yes, boss, of course, boss, ha, boss, that was very funny, boss, as long as you pay me, boss. Everything you say, as long as you pay me, yes, I agree, because you are paying me. That means that our love is not for the boss, our love is for the money. Right? So, but with Krishna it's different. We worship Krishna. And what for? Right? For blessings? Bless what? Bless me with what? Let me think. With money? Yeah, but that's money, everybody knows, that has two sides to it, happiness and distress. Okay, with sunshine forever. Yeah, okay, but in India they say sometimes it's a clouded day. And then they say, oh, such beautiful weather. They say, today is such nice weather. They say, in Holland that changes, isn't it? In Holland when there's sun, wow. Yes, so always the same. Are you going to eat the same every day? I stayed for a long time in Vrindavan, India, and we had one cook there, and he made this one yellow, mushy preparation, and there were some vegetables inside, but it wasn't sure which ones. And it was sort of half liquid and yellow, and he cooked that every day. So then we got a new cook, and the new cook, he made cauliflower sabji with carrots. Don't ask me why. And apple chutney and rice dal, chapatis. Wow, we were in ecstasy. Something different, Wow, and it tastes good as well. Instead of something undefined, you could see what was in it. And I go like, wow. But then he cooked it for 87 days straight. The same thing, same menu. But no one ever dared to say anything and complain because we were afraid of going back to the previous cook. Oh gosh. Yeah. But let's be real. Who can eat the same every day? Every day. Yeah. Sometimes we want some variety, something exciting, not only with eating, but with everything. We need some excitement, something new, something different. Yes, that is a spiritual world. It's always fresh, it's always new. It's not the same. It's every day a surprise. It said Radharani cooks for Krishna, and she cooks every day a totally new preparation, and it's nectar. And it's like you may say, oh, but what if you have your favorite? No, everything is your favorite. There's not one thing that is, it's all favorite. Of course, there are some favorites amongst the favorites. But she cooks always something new, because the spiritual world is always new. So as soon as there's personality, then there's also taste. As soon as there's personality, there's a whole world. So there's a spiritual world. There's a personality, Krishna. He has a body, he has a form, he has a home, he has his associates. Guess what? He lives in a village. Nice village. He likes cows. He keeps cows. But not ordinary cows. These cows are kamadhenus, wish-fulfilling desire cows. Ever heard of a wish-fulfilling desire cow? Not surprising, because you're going to travel a long way to the spiritual world. But such cows, they can give anything you desire. And they give milk, oceans of milk. Oceans of milk. Yeah, I just was in Zandvoort. We sang on the streets of Zandvoort, on the boulevard actually, and it was good. Yeah, an ocean of salt water. That's all we know. But how about an ocean of milk? Say, well, doesn't that go sour? No, it doesn't. It's spiritual. So, the spiritual world is full of variegatedness, full of variety. And why not? Isn't that natural? What did you think? That at the end of life, if you're a good person, that you go to heaven, and then it's always the same, eternally. And how would you feel? After 1 week you go like, I want to go home. Right? Something else. I left my cat. And what now, you know? I mean, it gets boring. You know? Some excitement, something fresh. Oh, that's it. That is it. So spiritual world is ever fresh. The material world, it's, yeah, you get into the routine, and it is that routine, well, in some ways we like it, because in the material world, there is one problem, that there is time, and we don't know the future. In the material world, there is always the unknown. So the unknown is something that is, what to say, it is sometimes exciting, but sometimes also fearful. Fearsome. It is fearsome. So, therefore, we like routine. The good old, you know, home sweet home, I know this place, it's safe, I know these people, it's predictable, and, you know, totally feel at home here. Safe. Of course, that's illusion. Now, anything can happen. One time, I was in a room, staying in a room, and at 6 in the morning, suddenly, it was as if someone was coming through the wall with a sledgehammer. I hear this incredible, like someone hitting really hard on the wall with a big hammer. And it's as if he's coming through the wall. Next moment, the wall cracked and then the floor cracked. I didn't know I could fly, but I could. I managed to fly out of the room. Right? Within seconds, I was out of the room, and it turned out that some earth tremor, and I was in the top of the building, and it created like a whiplash effect, you know, where the top just made that movement, and it cracked the wall and the floor. Now, would you have imagined something like that would happen? No. I mean, I never thought of something, I didn't think ever that something like that would happen. But it did. It did, just like that. That's the material world. Anything can happen. Any moment. And you don't know. You just don't know. So you can say a prayer when the curtains open. Dear Krishna, we are here again. Every Sunday we're here, so you must be happy with us. Please don't let anything happen. Don't let anything bad happen. Only good things. Every night you can pray. Dear Krishna, please save my grandmother. Dear Krishna, my grandfather as well. Dear Krishna. And you can go through the whole family, and may my cousin pass his exam. May auntie be healed from her arthritis. And may our bank balance grow fat. Yes. Like this we can pray. Well, what kind of prayers are those? Those are the prayers where we basically want to enjoy this world, and we just want to take away the negative things. It's lovely. Everything is fine. We just want to take away the suffering, take away the trouble, and then it's great. You say, no. That's not what it is like. This world is like an airport. Here you're supposed to board a plane. Some people, they get so excited when they get on an airport because there's so many shops. And they go shopping and then, oops, and they miss the plane. Yeah? That happens, you know. I mean, the purpose, you came to fly. You didn't come for shopping. Yeah? You came to fly. You came to go somewhere. So, it's the same. This world is an airport, and here we're meant to board a plane to fly to the spiritual world. That's the destination. So we're not praying for, oh, give me these material blessings, give me those material blessings. We're just praying, you know, somehow or other, let me go back to your eternal pastimes, because that's where it's really happening. Yeah. So that is the message of the Gita, really. The message of the Gita is really about becoming free from preoccupation with the material world. So many things are happening, so many things on my mind. To free the mind from all of this, and then back to the spiritual world. Yeah. Well, the vehicle then that can take us there is not an ordinary plane, but it is a mantra. Mantra is actually the vehicle that can transport us to that transcendental realm. Or it is also within us. Therefore it is also consciousness. That whole transcendental experience can be experienced without and within. Through mantra. So the mantra lifts us, carries us, and gives us an experience. And yeah, it is very, very nice. The mantra experience. I don't know where I really started with the mantra. I don't know if I heard it on the radio. I don't know if it was in the musical Hair. It was here in the Rai. That's just around the corner. That the musical Hair was performed. It was not just a musical. It was a cultural event. It was a happening. It was the sign of the times. The age of Aquarius, right? That's what they were singing. And so apparently, the maha-mantra was also in the musical. I don't remember that, to be honest. I was quite young when I went, and actually I don't remember the maha-mantra in there. The only thing I remember is that at the end of the musical, all the actors took their clothes off. That I remember. What can I say? That I remember very well. Yeah, but the maha-mantra, but they say it wasn't there. So maybe I heard it there for the first time. Maybe George Harrison, I don't know where I heard this Hare Krishna mantra the first time. Yeah, gradually mantra became, it came back again and again, and I went to India, and I went to Benares, and I was on the banks of the Ganga, and there's many temples there and stone steps. So sitting on the stone steps, and all day long, there was a Ram temple, and all day long there was this mantra blasting out of the speakers, quite loud. And the mantra was Siri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Siri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Siri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Siri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. I like the Siri because that's Banarasi Hindi, Sud Hindi bhaiya, Pakka Hindi, Bilkul bariya Pakka Hindi. Siri, not Sri, Siri. Yeah. So the musical sound of that really appealed to my ear, since I like music. That pulled me in, and the rest came. Ram came also, etc. The whole thing. And it was playing all the time. So after a while, I even caught myself. I'm humming the tune. It was just a earworm was in my head. So what to do? I was chanting this mantra, and even when I came back here in Holland, I was driving on the highway. So like that, it was just with me. But it was also at that time that my mother became ill, and quite ill. She got cancer. And it didn't go well. And so in her final days, I visited her in the hospital. And I thought, what do I do now? She's going to die. And I said, what do I do? What do you do? It's like, let me sing that temple song, right? So I sang that mantra. Yeah. And I was sitting next to the bed, and like for a long time I sang it, and she left her body like that. Yeah. So I didn't know, by then I didn't know that this was the thing to do. I only found out later that that's what you're supposed to do at the end of life, that you're supposed to chant the holy name of the Lord when someone is leaving the body. But I felt it was something holy, you know what I mean? It was not just, I knew it was a holy song from a temple, and I needed to do something sacred at that time. Couldn't just, sit there and watch the fun. I mean, she was dying, my mother, right, who was nice. So, yeah, Krishna gave me that gift, that I could do that. That's something I'm still quite happy about, that I could do. So, in this way, my experience with the mantra was very clear. I developed some faith that it was a sacred thing. And although I didn't quite understand the full depth of it, Certainly, yes, in due course of time, I read also the Ramayana, right? And I regularly, from time to time, I started chanting that mantra. At one point every day, I even wrote a song and worked the mantra in there, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, in the city. With a bit of bass. Yeah, so I did all kinds of things, but it stayed, that mantra. And it was, then later, the Hare Krishna maha-mantra came. There was a musician here named Burton Green, and he's a piano player. And one time I was in a jam session with Burton Green. And Burton Green wanted to improvise, and he said, let's do some ragas, and raga, India was very popular in those days. So raga, yes, raga, very good, And then we did raga, and I knew 2 ragas from India, so we were doing some raga, and I played guitar, and he played piano. And then he says, let's do some mantra. I say, yeah, raga, mantra, all spiritual sound from India. And then we did some mantra, right? And he starts to sing the Hare Krishna mantra. And they all sang the Hare Krishna maha-mantra. And so at that time, I knew that it was sacred sound. That I knew. But I did not know that much about the personality Krishna. That I didn't know. I didn't know what Krishna really in detail. If you would have asked me then, can you describe what Krishna looks like? Well, I would have got stuck pretty quick, right? I wouldn't have been able to give that much detail. I definitely would not have known that he had mother of pearl toenails, right? Which I know now, right? I definitely wouldn't have said lotus eyes, lotus face, lotus mouth, lotus navel, lotus hands, lotus feet. I definitely would not have said all those things. Now I do. So my understanding of the mantra was not so complete. I saw it in a more impersonal way. Oh, oops, 1 second, I'm losing my roll pillow. It's very comfy if you have one. Indian system. Yes, so this mantra, I had not so much association with it. Now I know that the name of Krishna is no different from Krishna the person. Now I know. From Padma Purana, now I know. So now I know when you say Krishna that the personality is also present. Then I didn't know. Yes. But gradually over time I heard more about Krishna. I heard that 5,000 years ago Krishna was on this planet. I heard it. And I heard that it was in a place called Vrindavan in North India. Well, India was sort of my second home. Whenever I was in Europe, I always had a ticket to India in my pocket. Right? Sometimes a plane ticket, sometimes a bus ticket, but it was a ticket. Right? And but many times overland. It was long, very exciting, long. Through Turkey, through Iran, through Afghanistan, Pakistan, Khyber Pass and everything, and then through Amritsar, and then, into India. Yes, so many times. Anyway, so always a ticket to India. Yeah, so, and I found out about Vrindavan. I knew a little about Krishna. I had a Bhagavad Gita. Oh. One day I saw it on my friend's bookshelf. I said, "Can I borrow that?" He said, "You can have it, I never read it." There I had my Gita, as it is, the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So little by little it came in. This Krishna consciousness, more and more, came into my life like a red thread, you know. It came again and again. One day I'm going on the tram, and there's like an empty seat next to me, and suddenly there's a Hare Krishna, and he sat right next to me. Now I don't know how you would feel when a Hare Krishna sat right next to you, but I freaked out, you know. It's like, oh help, you know, help, an extraterrestrial sitting right next to me. I almost went into the wall of the tram, but then he didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. If he would have said anything, if he would have given me an invitation, maybe I would have gone to the temple. Maybe. But I didn't. Anyway, those days we had a nice temple on the Herengracht, with a restaurant on the ground floor, free lunch program in the back, 50 people every day. Upstairs a temple, and then above there a hall, and then above there ashrams, 2 floors, and it was a deep building also. It was quite nice. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, gradually, more and more, Krishna came into my life. I got a girlfriend, and she had a dog named Krishna. Calling Krishna all day. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So, like that also. Somehow or other. Krishna. Everywhere Krishna. More and more. Until Krishna consciousness came to the foreground. By then, I started to find out more about the mantra. And I started to realize that there is a person who is known by that name. And I read more about the person. I read the Bhagavad Gita. And I realized it took place. It's a discussion that took place in India, in Kurukshetra. And that there is a place called Kurukshetra. And that you can go to Kurukshetra. I went to Kurukshetra many times as well. And yes, and that there were many more places connected to Krishna. And I visited such places. And I heard about Krishna from different books. And I found out his qualities. And I found out what he does. And how he's the Supreme Lord. And how he has his eternal pastimes. And he has no work to perform. But still he comes to the material world. Sometimes. He's not busy making the sun rise and making the sun set and making the earth spin. He has other things to do. But he comes to this world, not to control it, although he does control it if he wants to. He comes here out of love. Out of love to reclaim the living beings. Say, come to the spiritual world. Do not stay in this place. Oh, but I love it, I love every moment. You don't love every moment. Some moments you love. You love that mask? You don't love it. You're kissing it all the time. That mask. Do you hate your mask as much as I hate mine? Yes, these masks are just too much. And shall I tell you something? They don't work. Did you know that? They don't work. Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah, but they don't work. Yeah. But we don't like it. What to do? Here it is, the material world. So there's plenty of stuff we don't like here. You can think of a few other things. You can make your list of reasons to get out of here. Go to a place where there are no masks. Of course, if you take off this mask, then there is the next mask. Yeah? And when you take off that mask, there are still other masks. In psychology, they speak about taking off all the masks. How many masks are we wearing? How many facades? When are we going to? When? Are we really ready to be real? Stop acting to just be our true selves? No facade? Who can do? Who can do? No? But the mantra brings us to Krishna, and the mantra brings us to ourselves. It is said, just like by the light of the sun we can see ourselves. At night you see nothing. It's like, I travel, and then you always stay in a different room, and then you're not always sure where the light switch is, touching the wall and trying to find it. Yes, at night we can't see, but by the light of the sun we can see ourselves. So, as we see Krishna, we can see ourselves. Yes. By seeing Krishna, we can actually know ourselves. Without Krishna, we don't even know ourselves. Because we're all playing a part, playing a role. We're all actors on stage, nicely conditioned, nicely educated by our parents, by the school, by society, by the media, nicely trained. A nice identity imposed upon us. This is you. Yes. And here's your passport. Yes. And so on. But by the mercy of the mantra, we are lifted beyond this false identity. Because where there's Krishna, we also start to see ourselves. So the more we see Krishna, the more we see our true selves. And that is what's happening when we chant that mantra. And then as we chant that mantra, we begin to see Krishna more, and we begin to see ourselves more, and we begin to see the relationship, the eternal relationship we have with Krishna, more and more and more. And so, gradually, the whole thing becomes revealed to us. And then gradually we realize, this is not home. Oh, Amsterdam, how I love you, Amsterdam. Yeah, but another birth in Amsterdam. Better go back to the spiritual world. Yes. Where there's no death, no birth, no old age, no disease. Where there's no impediments, no limitations. Where we are not limited. In this world, I don't know how it is, but I'll tell you one last story and then I'm going to stop. It's like, my father had a tendency to give gifts on a birthday or something like that. And it was a practice, you were allowed to write a list, het verlanglijstje. And you could write there what you wanted. Right? Well, on top, of course, you write the thing you really want, the expensive thing, and then it goes down, right? So I made the list, and then birthday was coming. And then my father would give always something that was almost what I wanted, but one quality cheaper. That was really frustrating, super frustrating. Yeah? It was almost what I wanted and just one quality cheaper. He did every time. You did that. So, that's the material world. You have your desire, and you always get a little less. What to do? It's not perfect. And in the spiritual world, you always get more than the best you can dream. That is the spiritual world. We get more than the best we can dream. Therefore, let's not stay here. Let's just go there. And therefore, let us somehow or other remember where we are. We are on an airport, and the plane that we are boarding is the mantra. And let us take the mantra and just let us take off and just go with this mantra and see what dimensions will open up to us. That is the core of my talk today. If anyone has a question, I'll go 5 minutes over. And if nobody has a question, yes.
Hare Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So when we become devotees, we also learn that it's best to not chant with offenses. And we have the 10 offenses against the holy name. But for most devotees, newcomers, and even old devotees, even if you're not perfect and doing everything in those 10 offenses, is it better to just keep chanting, right?
Right. Yeah, better keep chanting. Okay, the 10 offenses, the nam aparad, are about, there are some things that can slow down the result of the chanting. It's like when you drive, you're supposed to take off the handbrake, for example. So then it moves better. Yeah. Yes. So in the same way, these offenses, the mantra is Krishna. When we are disrespectful to Krishna's devotees, to the mantra, to the scriptures, then Krishna is not happy. And then he will kind of pull back a little bit. Okay? The devotees are dear to Krishna. And if we are not respecting his devotees or his paraphernalia, then he feels, his heart grows a little cold. He keeps a little distance. I mean, the same happens to us, And if I slap your kid, I don't think I'll be a popular Swami. You'll never forget that. Right? 20 years ago, you slapped my kid. 20 years ago, yeah. It's something in your character that I don't trust. It's like, so. In the same way, if we have a negative attitude towards Krishna and towards the paraphernalia with Krishna, then the result of the mantra will take a bit longer, basically. But if we appreciate, no, this is sacred. Somehow or other I had the good fortune, I'd heard the mantra from a temple in India and I knew it was sacred. And I sang it for my mother. And I also got the benefit because I had that respect for the mantra. I knew it was a sacred thing. So it's like that. The mantra is a sacred thing and must be treated like that, with respect. Then it works very quick. Very quick. Too much fast.
Hare Krishna, Kadamba Maharaj.
Ji haan.
Dandavad.
Haan ji.
Accept my respectful obeisance. You talk about an inner and outer experience, and you say it's the same. How could you compare this inner and outer experience, and how can you recognize it?
There is a world, physically a spiritual world, which is outside this universe, and that would be a long journey, right? That would be light years away, you know? So in that way, the spiritual world seems very far, light years away. Yeah? But the spiritual world is also within us, and if we actually are making an internal adjustment, then we see the spiritual world right now, and then we are in the spiritual world right now. So also in consciousness, we can encounter the spiritual world. We can just in consciousness go into that spiritual dimension, and then suddenly we don't see things in terms of the present dimension anymore. That is possible also.
That's amazing.
Saves the journey. It's otherwise it would be a long journey. Light years is a long way to go. Finito. Okay, well, nice to see you all. And what can I say? It's life goes on. And let's just use our time and have the best of both worlds. That means have a good time with Krishna consciousness. Yesterday we were singing in the park. It was fun. Today I went to the beach. What else do you do on a Sunday when it's beautiful weather? But I went to sing the mantra. Like this is the best of both worlds. And if you can have that, then Krishna consciousness is actually very nice. The best of both worlds. And it is the best of both worlds. Best food. Best clothes, you know. We have the best clothes because they grow with you inside. So they always fit. Yeah? Very handy. Best clothes, best food. Best music. You sing and at the same time you get purified. You get eternal benefit. So we'll continue the program now. Sing a little more, but it's Nitai's turn because my voice is at the end. I've been singing so much that I gotta stop singing for a while. Nitai is traveling with me. Nitai Padakamala is his full name. And he is from Ljubljana, Slovenia, nice place, and grew up in Krishna consciousness. He's just born into it. Can you do? And he likes it. So he knows a lot of stuff. Yeah. You know, he's young, but longer in Krishna consciousness than many people here. Therefore, he knows many things. And that's why he plays drum like very, very nice. And so I'm turning you over to his good hands. And I'm going to sit somewhere in the back because I'm tired. No, singing in the street. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Kadamba Kanana Swami.
Hare Krishna. Okay, good luck. Huh? Yeah, throw you under the bus. He says I threw him under the bus.